Alright, so this story is from the Tlingit tribe, and the story is titled How Mosquitoes Came to Be. Long ago, there was a giant who loved to kill humans, eat their flesh, and drink their blood. Sounds like a nice guy. He was especially fond of human hearts. Unless we can get rid of this giant, people said, none of us will be left. And they call a council to discuss ways and means. One man said, I think I know how to kill the monster, and he went to the place where the giant had last been seen. There he lay down and pretended to be dead. Soon the giant came along, and seeing the man lying there, he said, These humans are making it easy for me. Now I don't even have to catch and kill them. They die right on my trail, probably from fear of me. The giant touched his body. Ah, good, he said. This one is still warm and fresh. What a tasty meal he'll make. I can't make it to wait to roast his heart. Wow, this giant's a cannibal. The giant flung the man over his shoulder, and the man let his head hang down as if he were dead. Carrying the man home, the giant dropped him in the middle of the floor, right near the fireplace. Then he saw that there was no firewood and went to get some. As soon as the monster had left, the man got up and grabbed the giant's huge skinning knife. Just then, the giant's son came in, bending low to enter. He was still small as giants go, and the man held the big knife to his throat. Quick, tell me, where's your father's heart? Tell me, or I'll slit your throat. The giant's son was scared. He said, My father's heart is in his left heel. What? Just then the giant's left foot appeared in the entrance, and the man swiftly plunged the knife into the heel. The monster screamed and fell down dead. Yet the giant still spoke. Though I'm dead, though you killed me, I'm going to keep on eating you and all the other humans in the world forever. That's what you think, said the man. I'm about to make sure that you never eat anyone again. He cut the giant's body into pieces and burned each one in the fire. Then he took the ashes and threw them into the air for the winds to scatter. Instantly, each one of the particles turned into a mosquito. The cloud of ashes became a cloud of mosquitoes, and from their midst the man heard the giant's voice laughing, saying, Yes, I'll eat you people until the end of time. And as the monster spoke, the man felt a sting, and the mosquitoes started sucking his blood, and then many mosquitoes stung him, and he began to scratch himself. Retold from English source in 1883. That's how mosquitoes came, fam. That's funny. That's hilarious. Okay, this story is from the Iroquois tribe, and it's titled Hiawatha the Unifier. Hiawatha, Hawatha, he who makes rivers, is thought to have been a statesman, lawgiver, shaman, and unifier who lived around 1570. According to some sources, he was born a Mohawk and sought refuge among the Onondaga when his own tribe first rejected his teachings. His efforts to unite the Iroquois tribes were rejected and opposed by a formidable chieftain, Watataraho, whom he even eventually defeated and who killed Hawatha's daughter in revenge. Wow, that's dark. The slumber of Tarian Yawangon, Upholder of Heavens. Okay, that's an interesting title, Upholder of Heavens. Was disturbed by a great cry of anguish and woe. He looked down from his abode to earth and saw human beings moaning with terror, pursued by horrifying monsters and cruel devouring giants. Turning himself into a mortal, Taranyawagon swiftly descended to earth and taking a small girl by the hand, told the frightened humans to follow him. By trails known only to him, he led the group of shivering refugees to a cave at the mouth of a great river, where he fed them and told them to sleep. After the people had somewhat recovered under his protection, Tarenyawagon again took the little girl by the hand and led them toward the rising sun. The band traveled for many days until he came to the confluence of two mighty rivers whose waters, white with spray, cascaded over tremendous rocks. There, Tarenyawagon halted and built a long house for himself and his people. For years they lived there, content and growing fat, their children turning into strong men and handsome women. Then Tarenyawagon, the sky upholder, became mortal. So he became mortal. Something bad's probably gonna happen. Wow, became mortal. Gathered the people around him and spoke, "You, my children, must now spread out and become great nations. I will make your numbers like the leaves of a forest in summertime, like pebbles on the shore of great waters." And again he took one little girl by the hand and walked toward the setting sun, all the people following him. After a long journey, they came to the banks of a beautiful river. Tarenyawagon separated a few families from the rest and told them to build a longhouse at that spot and found a village. "You shall be known by the name of Teharoga, those of divided speech." Whoa, that's a cool title. Those of divided speech. He told them, and they grew into the Mohawk tribe. So, you know the hairstyle of the Mohawk? There's a tribe called the Mohawks. That's pretty interesting. And from the moment he had named them, their language changed and they could no longer understand the rest of the people. To the Mohawks, Tarenyawagon gave corn, beans, squash, and tobacco, together with dogs, to help them hunt game. He taught them how to plant and reap and pound corn into meal. He taught them the ways of forest and game. For in that long time, people did not yet know all these things, when he had fully instructed them and given them the necessities of life. Wow, so he literally had to teach them all from scratch. Tarenyawagon again took a little girl by the hand and traveled with the remaining people towards the sunset. After a long journey, they halted in a beautiful, well-guarded valley surrounded by forests, and he commanded another group to build their village at that spot. He gave them what was necessary for life, taught them what they needed to know, and named them Neharetago. Okay, Neharetago. The big tree. Oh, nice. For the great forest surrounding them. And these people who grew into the Oneida Nation also spoke a tongue of their own as he had named them. Then once more, Tarenyawagon took a little girl's hand and wandered on, always towards the setting sun, and the rest of the people followed him. They came to a big mountain, which he named Onondagoanoga. At its foot he commanded some more families to build a longhouse, and he gave them the same gifts and taught them the same things that he had others. He named them after the mountain towering above them, and he also gave them a speech of their own, and these people became the Onondaga Nation. Okay, so that's their genesis. That's quite interesting. Again, with a small girl at his side. Why does he always pick kids to go by him? That's kind of weird. Tarenyawagon wandered on, leading the people to the shores of a lake sparkling in the sun. Maybe they include that because it makes him like a super humble, like gentle leader, maybe? The lake was called Goyaga, and here still another group built their village, and they became the Cayugas. Now only a handful of people were left, and these Tarenyawagon led to a lake by a mountain called Ganondawa. There he settled them, giving them the name of Tehenenonhent, which means keepers of the door. Ooh, keepers of the door. They too received a language of their own and grew into the mighty Seneca nation. Wow, it's teaching us in this story all about the different nations. There were some among the people who were not satisfied with the places appointed to them by the upholder of heavens. These wandered on toward the setting sun until they came to a river greater than all the others, a river known as the Mississippi. They crossed it on a wild grapevine that formed a bridge from bank to bank, and after the last of them had crossed the river, the vine tore asunder. None could ever return, so that this river divided the western from the eastern human beings. Sounds like a lot like, I don't know, it reminds me of the Bering Strait for some reason. To each nation, the upholder of heavens gave a special gift. To the Senecas, he gave such swift feet that their hunters could outrun the deer. Well, that's helpful. To the Cayugas, he gave the canoe and the skill to guide it through the most turbulent waters. Wow, nice. To the Onagandas he gave the knowledge of eternal laws and the gift to fathom the wishes of the great creator. Ooh. The Oeneras he gave skills in making weapons and weaving baskets, while the Mohawks he gave bows and arrows, and the ability to guide the shafts into the hearts of their game and their enemies. Ah, so maybe not to let them suffer. Tauren Yawagon resolved to live among the people as human being. Having the power to assume any shape, he chose to be a man and took the name of Hiawatha. Chose to be a man. Why? He chose to live among the Onondagas and took a beautiful lady of that tribe for his wife. From their union came a daughter, Minnehaha, who surpassed even her mother in beauty and skills. Hiawatha never ceased to teach and advise, and above all, he preached peace and harmony. Oh, that's good. Under Hiawatha, the Onondagas became the greatest of all the tribes. But the other nations founded by the Great Upholder also increased and prospered, traveling in a magic birch-bank canoe of dazzling whiteness, which floated above waters and meadows as if on an invisible bird's wings. Well, that's a pretty cool way to travel, right? That's interesting. Hiawatha went from nation to nation, counseling them and keeping man, animal, and nature in balance, according to the eternal laws of the Manituas. So all was well, and the people lived happily. But the law of the universe is also that happiness alternates with sorrow, life with death, prosperity with hardship, harmony with disharmony. From out of the north, beyond the Great Lakes, came wild tribes, fierce and untutored nations, who knew nothing of eternal law. Peoples who did not plant or weave baskets or fire clay into cooking vessels. All they knew was how to prey on those who planted and reaped the fruits of their labor. Wow, sounds like terrible. Fierce and pitiless, these strangers ate their meat raw, tearing it apart with their teeth. Warfare and killing were their occupation. They burst upon Hiawatha's people like a flood, spreading devastation wherever they went. Again the people turned to Hiawatha for help. He advised all the nations to assemble and wait his coming. And so the 5 tribes came together at the place of great council fire, by the shores of large and tranquil lake, where the wild men of the north had not yet penetrated. The people waited for Hiawatha 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. On the 4th day, his gleaming white magic canoe appeared. Gleaming white magic canoe of the birch tree. Those trees are pretty, you know. Floating, gliding above myths. Hiawatha sat in the stern guiding the mystery canoe, while in the bow was his only child and his daughter. The Sechem elders and wise men of the tribe stood at the water's edge to greet the great upholder. Hiawatha and his daughter stepped ashore. He greeted all he met as his brothers, and spoke to each his own language. Suddenly there came an awesome noise, a noise like the rushing of 100 rivers, like the beating of 1,000 giant wings. Fearfully the people looked upward, out of the clouds, and circling lower and lower, flew the great mystery bird of the heavens. 100 times as big as the largest eagles. Well, that's pretty big. And whenever he beat his wings, he made the sound of 1,000 thunderclaps. All the people cowered. Hiawatha and his daughter stood unmoved. Then the great upholder laid his hands upon his daughter's head in blessings, after which he said calmly, "Farewell, my father." She seated herself between the wings of the mystery bird, who spiraled upwards and upwards into the clouds, and at last disappeared into the great vault of the sky. Well, that sounds like a fun ride. The people watched in awe, but Hiawatha, stunned with grief, sank to the ground and covered himself with the robe of a panther. 3 days he sat thus in silence, and none dared approach him. The people wondered whether he had given his only child to the Manitus above as a sacrifice for deliverance of his people. But the great upholder would never tell them, would never speak of his daughter, or of the mystery bird who had carried her away. After having mourned for 3 days, Hiawatha rose on the morning on the 4th and purified himself in the cold, clear waters of the lake. Then he asked the great council to assemble. When the Sechem elders and wise men had seated themselves in a circle around the sacred fire, Hiawatha came before them and said, "What is past is past. It is the present and the future which concerns us. My children, listen well, for these are my last words to you. My time among you is drawing to the end. My children, war, fear, and disunity have brought you from your villages to the sacred council fire. Sacred council fire. Facing a common danger and fearing for the lives of your families. You have yet drifted apart, and each tribe thinking and acting only for itself. Each tribe acting only for itself. Remember how I took you from one small band and nursed you up into many nations. Nursed you up into many nations. You must reunite now and act as one. No tribe alone can withstand our savage enemies, who care nothing about eternal law, who sweep upon us like storms of winter, spreading death and destruction everywhere. My children, listen well. Remember that you are brothers, that the downfall of one means the downfall of all. You must have one fire, one pipe, one war club. Hawatha motioned to the five tribal firekeepers to unite their fires with a big sacred council fire, and they did so. Then the great fireholder sprinkled sacred tobacco upon the glowing embers, so that its sweet fragrance enveloped the wise men sitting in the circle. He said, Onada Gagas, you are a tribe of mighty warriors. Your strength is like that of a giant pine tree whose roots spread far and deep so that it can withstand any storm. Be you the protectors, you shall be the first nation. Onada, your men are famous for their wisdom, but you the counselor of the tribes. Be you the counselor of the tribes. You shall be the second nation. Seneca, you are swift on foot and persuasive in speech. Your men are the greatest orators among the tribes. Be you the spokesman, you shall be the third people. Cayuga, you are the most cunning, you are the most skilled in the building of managing canoes. Well, that's quite interesting, managing canoes. Be you the guardians of your rivers, you shall be the fourth nation. Mohawk, you are foremost planting corn and beans, and in building longhouses. Be you the nourishers. Your tribes must be like the 5 fingers of a warrior's hand, joined to the Grippling War Club. Wow, that's a cool freaking speech. Unite as one, and when your enemies will recoil before you, back into the northern wastes from whence they came. Let my words sink deep into your hearts and minds. Retire now to take counsel among yourselves, and come to me tomorrow to tell me whether you will follow my advice. On the next morning, the sachems and wise men of the 5 nations came to Hawatha with a promise that they would from that day as be one nation. Hawatha rejoiced. He gathered up dazzling white feathers which the great mystery bird of the sky had dropped, and gave the plumes to the leaders of the assembled tribes. By these feathers, he said, you shall be known as the Ako no Shue, the Iroquois. Thus, with the help of Hiawatha, the great unifier, the mighty league of the 5 nations was born, and its tribes held sway undisturbed over all the land between the great river of the west and the great sea of the east. The elders begged Hiawatha to become the chief sachem of the united tribes, but he told them, this can never be, because I must leave you. Friends and brothers, choose the wisest women in your tribes to be the future clan mothers and peacemakers. Let them turn any strife arising among you into friendship. Let your sachems be wise enough to go to such women for advice when there are disputes. See, the women have a different function. They're to be wise here. That's quite unique. Now I have finished speaking. Farewell. At that moment there came to choose assembled a sweet sound like the rustling leaves of a song of innumerable birds. Hawatha stepped into his white mystery canoe, and instead of gliding away on the waters of the lake, it rose slowly into the sky and disappeared into the clouds. Hawatha was gone, but his teachings survive in the hearts of the people, retold from a Victorian source. Interesting. Wow. That's quite unique, man. What a cool story. I really liked that. That was nice.